por favor, un aplauso para Angie Martínez. Gabriela Díaz, por favor, un aplauso para Gabriela Díaz. Benicia Mastey, un aplauso para Benicia, por favor. Y Eddie Perdomo, un aplauso para Eddie. Vamos a hablar un tema muy bonito. Este panel se llama Don't Give Your Music Away, What No One Tells You About Contracts and Royalties. Así que todos muy atentos. Un aplauso, por favor, para estos panelistas tan increíbles. Y los dejamos.
Buenas tardes. Gracias por estar aquí. Quería darle las gracias a Women in Music por tenernos en este día, que es una organización sin fines de lucro que empezó en 1980, concentrado en ayudar y dar información y poder darle soporte a las mujeres en el music industry. Aquí para saber un poquito, ¿cómo se le va el idioma? ¿Inglés, español, spanglish? Creo que así va a ser, como que estamos en Miami y así es que la industria corre. Bueno, mi nombre es Eddie Perdomo y estoy aquí para ser el moderador de este panel. Estamos hoy hablando de la conversación más importante del music industry, que se trata de tus derechos, cómo funciona la parte del negocio, porque todo negocio se mueve con el papel y el papel trae el contrato y son acuerdos que al final de cuentas un handshake agreement es un contrato, pero aquí ponemos por escrito.
Bueno, dependiendo.
Dependiendo, handshake, depende qué tipo de handshake. Pero bueno, sin quitarnos mucho tiempo, quiero empezar nuestro panel y tenemos aquí Angie, Angie Martínez es una abogada increíble, trabaja de la parte independiente y ha estado tantos años defendiendo los derechos de artistas y talentos en general. La conozco hace muchos años y bueno, está aquí con nosotros. Es muy, muy importante saber que tenemos una persona que pueden preguntarle cualquier cosa y ella te va a decir lo que es. Gaby viene de Universal.
Hola.
Y es abogada también. Y está con nosotros hoy para dar su perspectiva y su ángulo también desde una parte de un record label, perdón, de un publishing.
From a publishing, yeah.
De un publishing label. Yo trabajé en Sony Publishing por un tiempo, sé que hubiésemos sido competencia en algún momento, pero no pasó. Bueno, y Benicia, que está aquí con nosotros, que es un business manager, que también puede dar su ángulo en lo que sea que se pregunte con respecto a los contratos, viéndolo desde el punto de vista de una persona que trabaja el business management, ¿ok? Entonces, bien, bueno, sin mucho más, empecemos. La pregunta está en inglés, la voy a hacer en inglés primero y si hay alguna duda, pues... Angie, empecemos contigo. What's the most common mistake artists make when signing their first deal, and how can they avoid it?
Well, the first mistake is not hiring a lawyer, but let's just go beyond that. I think the mistakes, and I'm going to say it in both English and Spanish so that nobody loses out, but I think it's really important to know your value and what's important to you. Some people don't care about money. I don't understand those people. They just want an opportunity, you know, and they just want an opportunity. And then I'm like, but, you know, you're giving away the farm here. No, I wanted to say, I'm just Interscope, or I wanted to say Universal or Sony or whatever. And it's like, listen, I think it's important for you, especially you're not going to get signed on your first one. You have to try it out distribution-wise. Pay attention to your royalty statements. Because in as much as this is music business, and it's music business, it's 10% music, 90% business. So you have to know what the worth of your music is, for good and for bad, so that you don't overvalue yourself and you don't undervalue yourself. So I'm just going to say it in Spanish real quick. Creo importante, y yo creo de que el error que muchos cometen cuando están negociando el primer contrato es no saber su valor. Entonces, es importante, especialmente cuando están sacando música y lo están haciendo a través de un distribuidor, primero que nada, entender que los distribuidores normalmente están recibiendo un 20%, o si lo haces por TuneCore, se le paga una mensualidad o lo que sea. Pero entender cuánto dinero está generando tu música. Y después, entonces, cuando venga un contrato discográfico, y esto va para editorial también, registrar tus canciones, ser responsable. Esto es music business, pero es 90% negocio y 10% música. Esto es solamente como que un widget que es música que, claro, es como que muy poético y muy artístico, pero bueno. Entonces, en fin, importante saber cuál es el valor de lo que le puedes ofrecer a una disquera, a una editora.
Perfecto. Muchas gracias, Angie. Y creo que eso funciona también en la parte independiente. Saber su valor es muy, muy importante para saber cómo manejar los clientes, sobre todo cuando estamos empezando. Y algo que se me olvidó preguntar para saber aquí un poquito, que levante la mano, por favor, quiénes son artistas aquí
Who's an artist? Okay.
Wow, ok, mucho. ¿Quién es de acá? Por favor, levante la mano los que son dueños de disquera independiente o que piensan abrir una disquera en algún punto o que tienen y tratar de tener una editora independiente. Ok.
Wait,
managers?
who's songwriter? Who's the songwriter? Okay.
All right. Managers? ¿Algún manager?
Can I jump in, Eddie, 1 second? I also want to add to what Angie was saying was it's super important to have a team. Before you even walk into the label, you want to have an attorney, like Angie said, and you don't want an attorney that's a real estate attorney that's your uncle. You need an actual music entertainment attorney like Angie. Then you need a manager. You don't want a momager. You don't want your cousin. You don't want your brother. You need an actual manager because those are the people that are going to put you in the right rooms and give you the right deals and put you in front of the places where you need to be. And third, you need a business manager. The business manager is someone who's basically going to walk you through your financial scope of everything. Before you sign that deal, we're the ones who are going to tell you, okay, these numbers make sense, these don't make sense. You should negotiate. This is what it's going to cost you if you want to record in Japan. This is what it's going to cost you for this album. So we break down those budgets.
And going back to that, it's very important, vamos a decir, if you're not from the U.S., and you sign a contract with a U.S. company, if you are foreign, then they're gonna withhold retention. Okay,
Yes,
so
you need to make sure you
just
have
know
those.
when you're signing it. It might be $1 million. God bless you if it's $1 million. Amen and hallelujah. But then if they have to hold back 300,000, that's gonna hurt, you know. And if maybe you would have had a little bit of advice in planning it would have been better.
Great, thank you, Angie. And yeah, let's move on. We have many questions. So now for Gabriela, what does work for hire really mean in the music contract? And it is such a red flag for songwriters and producers. Why is it? Can you please explain to them what would work for hire be?
So a work for hire is pretty straightforward. You get hired for a certain work. The red flag that I would say is that you, at the end of the day, are not the copyright owner. You don't have any rights to the song. You're basically hired to make a song or to write a song or whatever it may be for a company. And at the end of the day, I think there are many red flags that go with it. There are a lot of benefits too. I mean, you get a paycheck cut straight to you. But at the end of the day, that's not really helping your portfolio. It's not really helping you as a songwriter or as an artist. It's not really going under you. And then obviously the legal limitations that come with it, like it's not your song. So I think there are benefits to it, obviously. Like there are jingles, there are things that maybe it would just be easier to just do a work for hire, and those situations are understandable. But for the most part, sometimes I would say that for the most part, it's something that you definitely have to read through, something that you have to be willing to accept. And like Angie said, there are a lot of times where people want to jump at opportunities, and that's great. That's an awesome trait to have, but you need to know your worth. You need to know what is meant for you, maybe what's going to pop off as a huge song, and then you're kind of screwed out of it, right? So just making sure that you understand what the work for hire really is and how it can benefit you or affect you in the long run.
And I'm going to keep jumping in, so prepárense. And I also think that, but a work for hire can be very scary to certain artists. But, you know, sometimes, like, I just think it's funny, like, if you know your worth, but you have to also know how much it's going to take to get you to the next level, okay? So that's what major record labels might bring to the table. If you want it, if you don't want it, it's up to you. But you have to have like a very worldly, global view of, okay, I can make this much money on my own. If I keep doing it, you have to know, okay, a production costs so much. a video costs so much. If I do a whole album, it's gonna cost me this. If I don't have, of course, someone's calling me right now, pero bueno. If you don't, you have to know how much it's gonna cost. If you don't have an investor, a record label might be a good avenue, but again, in negotiating, you have to know your worth. So maybe a record label is willing to put $500,000 behind you in promotion, which mind you, you might think, oh, coño, voy a perder I'm gonna lose my masters or whatever. But something that I want all of you to like, especially the artists, to understand, you are the brand, okay? La música es la gasolina. So if the music, more often, you're gonna make money off of bookings. You're gonna make money off of endorsements. You're gonna make money off of a lot of other things. Music is the gas, okay? So just keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, you can't like worry about losing out on something if you're actually losing out on the big picture of all the bookings, all the tours, all the merchandising. If you want to get into movies, if you want to write children's books, it's creating the brand, okay? That's it.
Right.
I have a question. So going back to work for hire, right? So when I hear work for hire, I hear like an employer, right? So you come, they say, okay, I need a beat. You make the beat. Now, you don't own that beat anymore. They own the beat. They pay you for that beat. Bye. See you later. What happens, Angie, when that beat takes off?
No, you always, as an artist or a producer, you always want to have a royalty.
That
Yes,
was actually
that's where I was
something I was
going.
going to jump into it. Considering we have so many artists, I'm sure some of you are producers as well, correct? We have producers here in the house. So what would be the difference between, for example, having a work for hire clause on a publishing, which is a different scenario, than having it in a producer deal, which all producer deals have a work for hire language, but that is a different work, meaning that doesn't mean that you're not going to get paid if you're getting the right producer agreement. Can you explain just briefly?
So when you sign a work for hire, it all depends. If you're getting paid a flat fee, it's a flat fee. But more often than not, especially producers should be getting paid an advance, a fee, and a royalty, okay? So it's very important to like, to have a lawyer look at it, like really at the end of the
Very
day,
important.
un artista no puede estar en misa y procesión a la misma vez. El artista es el artista, deja de que alguien que se especializa en esto asegure de que te están protegiendo. So you can't be in mass and procession at the same time. Just have a lawyer look at it, because these are opportunities that, this is the thing why I'm so empathetic towards artists. Like, this is a sacrifice. You know, like you guys have probably fought with your family and said, well, why don't you become an accountant? Why don't you become a lawyer? And these are sacrificios that you guys are making. So, in as much as it's fun and it's creative and it's beautiful, it's also your business and it's also how you're gonna survive. So just make sure you get qualified people. And if you can't get it, and please don't use ChatGPT for everything. Like, please don't, you know, like ChatGPT will not solve all of your
It's
problems.
not always right, actually.
So good. Okay, let's continue. Thank you, Angie, and thank you, Gabby. This is a question for you. From your standpoint, 360 deals, how do you feel about them? Do you think is something where artists, is it fair? Is it something that you see a lot?
It is something we see a lot. In my opinion, it kind of sucks because the labels own a little bit of everything. They own your publishing, they own your even side gigs, they own your music. You know, you have to split it with them basically. So what do you really come home with at the end of the day? The other thing is, you know, it can be beneficial if the label's gonna back you up. Obviously, you can get a bigger advance, you can get, you know, more money in that sense, but at the same time, it's like they come in and are they gonna put in the work to promote you, to distribute, to do all that? Are they gonna put the extra work in for those deals, you know, versus you on your own? So there are kind of like the ups, but there are cons on that aspect of it, on the longevity of it, because even, I don't know what happens, Angie, this is kind of like a question for you. What happens after?
Next question is for Angie. So.
Oh.
But But I'm just going to say real quick, the 360, for those of you that don't know, is where a record label takes a percentage of everything else. I think there's two things. Again, know your value. Know how much those percentages of your bookings really calculate to. The other thing is, no, coño, I'm going to have to pay the label. I'm going to have to pay my manager. I'm going to have to pay my booking agent. I'm going to have to pay what. So how much does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? And something else for you to think about. When a label usually gets a percentage off of your bookings, they get it off of gross, okay? But as a lot of you artists know, there's all-in deals where a promoter might say, mira, here's $10,000, come to Colombia. I don't care how you get here, but just you have to pay your travel, you have to pay your hotel or whatever. You don't want your label to then get a percentage off of gross because you're not getting paid off of gross. You're getting paid after you have to pay the airline tickets, the hotels or whatever. So again, get a lawyer. But just keep something for you to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you both. And it's something that I want to add, like there's some contracts that even though they don't say 360, they are 360. It's very common to see a regular recording deal and suddenly you have a percentage taken off every single aspect of that artist's income. Where shows is one of those auxiliary incomes that come in. You have other ones that could be added too, and that's how you identify that it's suddenly a 360 deal, because they're taking a chip out of every single thing you do. And if in the event that you happen to be in a situation where 360 deal is the way to go because a lawyer has looked at it and all that, then things like what Angie just said about make sure that if the label is going to take some money from your touring, that they don't take it out of the gross, because then that would be trouble. And that could be something that people might miss.
Yeah, you can always try to net out, say, okay, mira, de los $10,000, entonces try to take out the travel expenses, but also try to take out your manager's commission and try to take out your booking commission. Everything is negotiable.
Okay. Great, thank you, Angie, and thank you. So we have a question for you now, because it's your turn.
I'm a panel hog, guys. I'm sorry, I'm a panel hog.
Yeah, so what are the red flags in co-publishing and admin deals in general that creators usually miss, right, with the publishing world?
I'd say number one, I don't think it's that they miss, but you have to know that you have to know how long you're giving up your co-publishing for. So there's opportunities, again, know your worth, register your songs with ASCAP BMI, try if you can know your worth, because when you're going in to a publishing deal, you have to be able to negotiate with them, and sometimes there's opportunities for you to get on the co-publishing side, get your rights back, okay? Sometimes there isn't. It depends on where you're at in the world, and it also depends sometimes on what the publishers have two obligations to do for you. They have the obligation to pay you, whether it's advances or royalties, and they have the obligation to register. They have no creative obligation. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to put you in song camps, but there's publishers that are known for it that say this is an extra benefit that they have for you. So I would say for you not to go in thinking that they're going to connect you with fulano, mengano, y Guantano. That's what they're there to do. The other thing, and you can cover.
10 minutes, so you know.
Okay, that's fine. You can cover your ears at source. At source.
Oh my
Just
God,
that's very important.
I was going to mention that. I was going to be
at source.
Go.
Go.
So this is when your royalties are calculated between the publisher and you. It's a royalty split. There's usually 75-25, 50-50 if it's a performance from the publisher share, etc. But very important that all those splits are calculated at
source.
Thank you.
At source. Y eso quiere decir, for example, publishers, like a United States publisher will pay you 75%. That's fine. And I'm not going to say Universal because she's sitting right next to me, but Warner. So Warner, right? Then they have an affiliate in Spain. They have an affiliate in Colombia. They have an affiliate in Mexico. And if you don't say at source, what they're going to do is that the Mexican office will charge the American office a 15% collection charge. So then you're not getting paid off of the 100, you're getting paid off of the 85, okay? So at source. So
Very
I want you to
important.
get paid off of the 100.
Extremely important. Okay, great. We have just maybe a good 7 minutes or so. So let's try to, I have a question for like all of us in a way. Are there any deal points that are negotiable 99% of the time, even though labels or publishers act like they're not? This is a very broad and very big question, but are things that sometimes like, oh, this is not negotiable, you would say? What type of deal maybe? The advance? I think that going back to the worth of the artist is very important here. But if there's anything in your angles, each of you, that you might say that
Everything is negotiable depending on your
Everything.
leverage.
Yeah.
Everything is negotiable.
Depending on your, even like your social media, like how popular you are on social media now, like everything is negotiable. Don't let them tell you, oh, this is what you're getting. No, like this is what I need, you tell them.
Right.
That's how
I think
feel.
there are, obviously I'm the outlier here. I think there are limits on things, obviously, but I do think that that's correct. Like show your cards, show everything that you have, and make sure that you're really advocating for yourself. There are a lot of things that maybe a publisher just doesn't know are important to you, and it's not out of like a bad place. It's just, you know, certain approval rights, certain the way that money is structured out when you get paid. I don't know your life, you know. So I think that most things are negotiable. I think there's a conversation to be had, and I think what Angie's been saying is completely true. You need to get a team behind you. You need to get a lawyer. You need to get a business manager. You need to get people that are advocating for you and that know what buttons to push, what buttons not to push, and how to get you the right deal.
And I think you just, generally speaking, I'm going to tell you something that goes into negotiating deals. Sometimes it's not who you know, but who knows you. Try to meet as many people as possible, okay? And try to show your music to as many people as possible. Because even if you don't do a deal with them, they might be like, mira, recuerda fulano de tal que vino, that would be like a great collaboration with this artist or whatever. It's very important. And the other thing is, when you are, let's say, going into a label deal, try and meet everybody from the label. Try to meet the promo person, the publicist, the sync person, the marketing person. Like, why? Because the person that brought you in might not be there tomorrow, okay? And you need to have people inside the building that are willing to fight for you. And you know what? Be nice to them. These people are used to celebrities all the fucking time, okay? So bring them a little regalito. Bring them something so that you stand out. It's like, mira qué buena gente.
Bien, actually, we have way more time than I thought, so
Okay.
we're good. We're good, and that's
because
awesome because we have half to cover. We have plenty of questions. Okay, this is a question for Gabriela. Mechanical royalties, performance royalties, neighboring rights. What are the most misunderstood royalty streams, and who collects them?
So I think that the most misunderstood royalty streams might be performance rights, at least in my opinion. I think that most people don't really understand the math that goes behind it. And like, I'm not a math person, so I completely understand it. I hate numbers, but you have to know what you're getting in a deal, and you have to know how it's supposed to be calculated and how it's supposed to be brought out, right? You have to know that you have to register with PROs. You're not going to get money if you don't register with these companies, right? So even, you know, BMI, ASCAP, whatever it may be, you need to register with a PRO. And that also goes for mechanical royalties. Like if you're not registered with the MLC, you're not getting a dime. Like you're not getting anything if you don't know where to register. Going back to the same theme, you need a team that's going to help you out and tell you where you have to put, you know, where you have to register, where you have people that you have to talk to, what you have to do. So at the end of the day, I think those are the most misunderstood. Neighboring rights are also a little bit wonky. It's almost like performance rights for the master side. You need to know that you're even entitled to those. Most people don't even know that they're entitled to them. So I think it's Sound Exchange that does in the US, yeah. And so, you know, you wouldn't know that as a recording artist most of the time. So yeah, I think it's hard to really understand like all these different types of royalties, but it's super important to be able to dictate the difference between each one of them and how you're supposed to get your income stream from each one.
Good, thank you.
But register. I'm just going to say something. You don't understand. And I think that Eddie can come back, back me up on this. There was this one songwriter, okay, that I'll just tell you, he was, ¿cómo se llama? El Cata. El Cata from Dominican Republic. So what had happened was, El Cata had a song in Dominican Republic, okay? Shakira ends up sampling that song, okay? So, and it was like a huge hit. And El Cata thinks he's like made in the shade, except guess what happened? When that song originally came out, somebody went and registered that song. And that somebody then registered himself on the Shakira version of the song. And because he never registered the song and only came to register it afterwards, it was un arroz con mango. There was a lot of litigation. At the end of the day, yes, El Cata won, but guess who really won? The lawyers. So
That's right. And El Cata was signed to a major publisher at the time, but they need to be protected as well. It's not their fault that this happened, and yep, he generated a lot of money, and when you calculated all that money minus the legal fees, then you're done. So yep, very important to register. Absolutely. So okay, from a legal standpoint, Angie.
I'm sorry, guys.
How important is to register copyrights? Oh, great. We just talked about it.
So registering, very important for you to understand. Something is copyrighted upon creation, okay? Once it's fixed in a tangible medium of expression. Once it's, o sea, algo está protegido por copyright a la creación, siempre y cuando está fijado en un papel, en un video, en un archivo de estudio, lo que sea. So it's very important. Ahora, lo que pasa and what happens is that you need that copyright registration to sue somebody. Okay, so that's your ticket in. Para poder entrar y litigar, demandarle a alguien por un infringio, un plagio, se necesita ese registro. Hasta que no tengas ese registro, entonces no puedes demandar a nadie.
Right, that's your legal proof.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, and this is an aspect to proving creation, but it isn't determinative. There's something called the poor man's copyright, where you mail it to yourself, but mail it through the U.S. Post Office, okay? And so that postmark of the U.S. Post Office is supposed to act like at least some proof that as of this day, it was created by you, okay?
And keep it sealed.
But you have to keep it sealed, because if
Don't
you open
open it.
it, then, So especially if you're mailing it to yourself, you know who mailed it to you. So point of the story is, yes, copyright registration is important, but and especially if one day down the line you want to sell your catalog, they're going to ask you about copyright registrations. But if you are doing work for hires, then it's up to Sony or Warner or your record label to copyright that for you. And if you're doing publishing deals, or co-publishing deals, then it's up to that co-publisher to do it for you as well. However, if you are your own independent label and your own record and publisher, you're supposed to be registering these songs. And bro, and I'm sorry that was such a Miami thing that I did. For real, register your songs. Before you register them for copyright, I would tell you to register them with your PRO, because that's also some proof that as of a certain day you were doing it. So that's important, yeah.
So ASCA, BMI, CSEC are the PROs. That first, it's easy, and then, thank you. Thank you. So Benicia, for you, we have a question. Talked about the sunset clause.
Oh, and last thing, copyright.gov. Copyright.gov.
That is a good one.
It's a website. Copyright.gov. You can call them. It's free. You can ask them questions. You can ask them how to do it. Copyright.gov. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Now that is a good one. So, sunshine clause in management and publishing. How is it important after the relationship ends?
It's very important, because what that means is your manager. So if you and your managers, your contract's up, they can still either collect on deals that they bought in, and that will basically impact your new manager's deal, because now you're still paying this guy 10%, and then you want to pay your new manager 20%. Now you're paying 30% for that longevity time because you didn't have this in writing saying after our contract's up, you know, my money stays with me, or whatever however Angie, the attorney, words it on the contracts. But that's basically what a sunset clause is. It's your manager continues to take money after your contracts are due, are up.
I think that also protects managers. There's been time where they have spent working on that talent, and it's sometimes not fair when suddenly that contract ends, and then now the artist is huge, is making a lot of money, but who did all that work? Well, the manager was part of that work, and there's certain. How many years would be that, the common one?
A sunset provision could be from 3 to 6 years.
From 3 to 6 years?
Yeah.
Okay, good. To be collecting the same percentage or something
No,
less?
it should be going less. It should be going down.
That's right.
But hold on a second. I also want to say something about managers. Very important people in your life, okay?
Very.
Not only do they, I'm a certain level of protection, but your manager is your certain level of protection too. And let's just call a spade a spade. They're getting 20% off of what you're getting, okay? Like, at the end of the day, if you're not making $1,000 a month, they're getting 200, and they're doing all this work, time, energy. I just have to give it up for the managers, because it's very important that you have a good manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very important. And yes, you have to be cognizant of what it costs you at the end of the day. But I think it's also important that for me as I've been a manager.
Me too.
And I also think that it's really important to figure out everything that you did with them, right? So let's just say you had 3 albums with that manager. Are they going to take their 20% off of that forever? Or is that also built in the thing? I would tell you that as a manager, I would want my 20% forever, because there's no way that the next manager should be commissioning off of stuff that I did, you know? So it's just things for you to keep in mind.
That's really good to know.
Say it, yeah.
Absolutely. Great, so now you know.
The more you know.
That's right. Gabriela, there's a question for you. Split sheets, how important are they? How much do they protect actually songwriters after the fact, if there's any problems with the registration of the songs? And split sheets are a piece of paper that everybody puts their percentage there when they end the song. So usually you have a producer, you have a songwriter, etc. Talk to us a little bit about how important are they, even from the publishing perspective, and if they work or not?
So from publishing, it's very important. That's kind of just the concrete way to see who has what split on a song. A split sheet doesn't have to be anything formal. It can literally be on a napkin. It can be written in a text message. It could be anything that just shows concrete who has what percentage to what song. And I think they're super important, right? Because one day you guys might all agree that it was a completely, it was an equal split between everyone that was in that room, but then tomorrow someone disagrees and now your work is thrown into conflict, right? So at least this gives you a more concrete way of seeing, or it gives the publisher a more concrete way of seeing who has what in the song. And I think that that's also just important going down the line, right? Because problems don't come up a month after the song is created. I mean, sometimes they do, but sometimes it's 20 years after a song is created, right? So where can we go back to? Who can see something? If something is sent, if a split sheet is sent in an email, or it's recorded somewhere where the publisher has it, we can always go back to it and double check and use that as evidence, use that as proof that, this is what was agreed to in that session, especially if it's signed. That one's the key. If it's signed, it's extra important, it's better for everyone. And I know it's a taboo to do it in a studio. I don't understand it. Granted, I'm not very creative, so I'm more on the logical side of it. But yeah, I know, what a vibe killer. But it is true. I mean, you're doing all of that work in the studio. You're putting together all of these songs. You're putting in all of your effort for then what? For someone else to take your split? I know it's taboo, but I think it's one of the more important things that you sit down and you really get organized and you say, yeah, I know it's taboo, whatever, but here's my split. Here's what I want to record. Here's what I want to put in concrete evidence.
Also, very important, I know I'm back. So very important for you to like keep in mind how a song is supposed to be split, okay? So in the US, it's very typical. You do the music, you get 50%. You do the lyrics, you get 50%. And if somebody else did the hook, maybe they get 5 to 15% that could be shared between the two of them, or it comes out totally out of the lyric side, etc. In Europe, for example, they do 33, 33, 33. So 33 goes to the melody, right?
Melody,
Lyrics, 33 lyrics, and 33 music. So it all depends how it is. But yeah, and also try to have some proof of your own, you know, especially if you're co-writing with people. There's two things. If you're a co-writer, don't have your co-writer's boyfriend or girlfriend in the room that is like telling you two words.
Ajokohono?
Huh?
Ajokohono?
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying like that gives you two words and then all of a sudden they want a piece of publishing too, you know, like keep it to the people in the room, all right? And yeah, and as quickly as you leave it on your way home, as you're doing whatever, send a text message. Send a text
Memorialize
message.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one last question. This is for everybody. If you could implant one piece of knowledge into every new artist's brain before they release a song, what would that be? If we could make it short, sweet.
Get organized. Make sure you're organized before you do anything. Make sure that you know who's around you, who your team is, what you're signing, what you're releasing, how you're releasing it, what medium. Get organized. Make sure that you know your stuff before you make a big jump.
Have a plan, have a strategy. You know, to her point, like there's so much that goes into writing a song, but yeah, in advance of the song, before the song is released, try to get all your producer agreements done, etc. Because when then the song becomes a number one hit, something that you could have paid $500 for, you're now paying $50,000. You know, so try to get your paperwork done before.
Avoid future problems.
Yeah.
Have a structure.
Great, guys. Get organized. Well, thank you. This is the end of our panel for now. And I want to thank UNSiN and Women in Music. And I think we covered a lot.
Questions? Yeah, absolutely. I can talk loud too. I don't need a microphone.
Check, check. I know you can. Since we're in the topic, we ended with percentages and publishing and being in the room and writers. How do you feel about managers or management teams that take percentages of publishing from artists and they were not even in the room? And that happens widespread. And what can we do to eradicate that issue?
I know you're not going to answer that. I would tell you that I think it's a conversation that needs to happen between the artist and his manager at the end of the day. And why and let's just say you're dealing with an artist. Let's just say it's a collaboration, right? And how would something like that affect you as a songwriter down the line, all right? So let's say you're collaborating with fulano de tal, and fulano de tal's manager, for some reason, gets a percentage on these songs. Outside of like the respect to the songwriter, that only the songwriter should get, how could that affect you? Bueno, what happens, right, if fulano de tal and his manager get in a fight, okay? And then what happens if Pepsi wants to license that song from you down the line? And let's say that because fulano de tal's manager is mad at him and doesn't want to approve the synchronization, te jodiste, all right? Because Pepsi is not going to go and approve the use without having a fully licensed sync. So just keep that in mind as how that could affect you. But really, outside of that, it's an issue between the writer, between the artist and his manager. And unfortunately, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's a very common practice in the business.
How important is a prenup for the writer if they're getting married? How that affect their royalties? Because they're young, they don't think about it.
Yes, yes, prenups are very important. And I know love is love, beautiful. But this is a business, people. This is a business. These songs are your babies. These recordings are your babies. You have suffered for these things. And then, and mind you, I just have to say, especially guys, just make sure that they're 18, okay? And then also, make sure you wear a condom. And then also, make sure that if you're going to get married, more often than not, at some point, like, you should create a company, okay, for tax purposes. Register your
That's a
songs
question that I
there.
have here.
Actually, that's a question that I was
Yeah.
very prepared for because it's one of my favorite topics.
May I do it? May I ask it
Yes,
actually?
please ask
Okay,
it.
thank you. From a business manager perspective, what's the ideal financial setup for a new artist just starting to make a real income?
So, this is my question. So, do not do an LLC. You want to set up a corporation, and then you want to elect for an S election. And I'm going to explain very quickly, because I know we're out of time, what that is. That means, basically, if you do an LLC, and it's a single-member LLC, because you're in a rush to go to the lawyer and bring this contract and sign this deal, what happens is, in the long term, it goes onto your Schedule C on your personal return. If later on in 5 years you start to make all this big money, you get audited on a tax perspective, guess what? They don't just audit your company, your LLC, they audit your personal. So double whammy for the tax, right, for IRS. If you set up a corp and you elect it as an S election, what happens is your personal, your corporation. S election means that it's just your corporation. They want to come audit that, they come audit that by itself. There's also more tax, there's room to do a lot with an S election versus an LLC or a regular corporation, right? It also protects you from the big guys. If somebody wants to come buy you out, a big company, they can't touch it because it's marked as an S election. Get yourself a business manager who can explain this to you, who can break this down for you and make sure that you're structured from the beginning. You also want to make sure that all your deals are under one company only. Then your merchandising, another company. Your pub, another company.
But when you're starting,
your touring, another company.
Let's call a spade a spade. When you're starting, have a company. Okay?
Have one company
Yes,
when you're
but
starting for
when
your
the mu-
deals.
Know your worth. When the money starts, and why? Why does she say this? Okay, and it's very important. Let's just say that let's just say that you get in, God forbid, you get into a car accident, right? Mm-hmm. And you have all of your stuff, everything is with you, signed directly. Then guess what? That person that you got into a car accident with can go after your music royalties,
Correct.
everything.
Correct.
Okay?
But if you separate it, they can't go after everything.
Yeah.
If you separate it, they cannot. You're protected. That's why I say you make sure that everything that you do, and also on a tax point of view, you want to have it separated. You want to call your accountant and say, hey, how much did I make on my merch this year? Mm-hmm. And you want them to be able to break that up for you quickly. You want to make sure that, oh, hey, how did I do on my tour? Your tour is separated. Your tour is broken down. Your budgets are there. Everything is separated. Everything is separated.
So one LLC, S, you said?
No LLC.
No LLC.
Say no to LLCs in here, okay? Yeah.
You want to set up a corporation. And on the corporation, what you do, you want to elect it as an S election. Okay. The S election is what you want. And then...
Yeah.
Okay, and divide and have one per income stream.
Yeah.
Correct.
Try
Once you
to,
start,
try to. But at the beginning, I mean, and this is the other thing. What happens if you release a song and one of your producers got the loop off of some free sample thing, and then they come after you, okay? They can only come after your company because your company owns the recording. They
Correct.
can't come after your
you,
house.
and after your
so
house,
that's where
your car.
you separate one thing from the other.
Awesome.
Correct.
S Corp, one, everything
S
separated.
corp through a corp.
I think
Yeah.
that's all the time we have. Is that correct? Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for having us.
All right. All
All right, get excited about your business!
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for this very honest panel.